So speaking
Um,
of
yeah, what you got, Lewis?
shittiness,
Yeah, always
Pope.
shittiness. Mm-hmm.
Sorry for
Great
anybody who's
segue.
religious, but
Great segue. Yeah, Pope
so
Francis.
the Pope he he decided to go to Canada to apologize for historic
Yeah,
abuse of the indigenous people. And
yeah. You
I
know how
was
much
telling
that's
P, this is
costing
an
us?
interesting one, man. This is like if I'm gonna go to the hood and I'm gonna walk up to every black dude and be like, "Listen, I'm really sorry about my ancestors and what they did." And like they'd be like,
You haven't done that yet?
"Why are you here? Like, fuck out of here."
You're supposed to be
How
paying
did how
them.
does the Pope like? What is go break some money off to him?
Money doesn't work either. There's a kind of a tumultuous, is that the word?
Probably
Relationship? Probably not. I add letters sometimes. Um,
overrated.
there's a very contentious relationship between First Nations or Aboriginals peoples and the Canadian government. Um, I've gone into this like a few times in regards to like how America decided to take over the land. Now, you can argue that it wasn't America's land. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was indigenous land to those that were
Native
living there at the time.
Americans,
You
yeah.
can't argue that. There was people there first, right?
And then we called them
America.
fucking Indians for like ever. So it's like,
Well,
well, I'm not from
we still
India.
technically have an Indian Act in our country. So it's like
Interesting.
we have legislation that's still got names to it.
None
But
are
anyways,
from India. They're like,
uh,
okay.
uh, it actually might have been turned into it might have been turned into something else. But the America took over, or Europeans, what do you call Americans before they were Americans?
Colonists,
The colonialists or colonists,
colonialists, or pillagers,
colonists, pillagers, pilgrims. You
or
can't call them
pilgrims. Yeah, if you
pillagers.
want to call it like that, but I'm going to call them pillagers
No, I like colonists.
and
That one's a good one.
murderers.
When
Or
the
colonists.
colonists
Yeah.
came over to America, or no, it wasn't America. When they came over to the new land that wasn't so new and or not someone else's, they took it. They just took it. They might have like stole it and bribed a little bit, and maybe
Poisoned people and
fought,
maybe gave
maybe
diseases,
given them a
whatever.
little disease.
Whatever.
But Canada, now this is a big difference. But Canada didn't do that. Canada
Canada
paid
put the
everybody.
condom on before they fucked the people. That's
Well,
what
buddy dear, we came across from the land there and we brought a few things. We brought ourselves some alcohol and we sat down and we decided, their partnery, instead of having here ourselves a conversation and getting into a whole here argument, why don't we sign a whole bunch of legal documents there, And we could just make it official, and you could have a little land and I could have a little land, and your people and my people would get along, huh?
So they
So
started the narrative of like softest, but like
yes,
they pulled it like,
yeah,
whoa, 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 whoa there, pal. We
sorry
don't want
there,
to fight
but
there, bud. We just kind of want to talk
oh.
about it a little bit. Maybe a couple
Sorry,
Molsons and
partner.
fucking hockey.
Yes.
You know?
And so instead of taking the place over, we decided to sign a bunch of legal documents, contracts, also known as treaties, with the people. We said, you know what? This land's yours. This land's yours. We just need this tiny little spot over here and this tiny little spot over here. Other than that, the rest is yours.
You
And we
can have
signed
all the
that into
shit that's
contract.
not very inhabitable. Things that
Yeah.
only grow there right there.
Well,
Struggle to get electricity and
that's
basic
what it
shit.
turned
But
into. That's what it turned into. Like if you look at a map of Canada and how much the federal government legally owns versus the First Nations people, we don't own shit. We don't own shit. We have no portions of land because we signed it all away via contracts. So now, and no matter how much time goes by, if you sign a contract with somebody that doesn't have an expiration date on it, that contract doesn't void. That contract is still active. And if you say no, it isn't. Well, what if you signed a contract? What if you signed a contract with your employer? What if you signed a contract with your wife? What if you signed a
just
contract with
burn
your
it.
neighbor?
It's good,
And
right?
all of a sudden, you're like, nope. They're like, nope. We're just not going to be responsible for this contract anymore. And you're saying, well, what the fuck? No. I've got a contract right here that says you owe me this or this. And whoever else on the other side says, nope. There is no expiration date. So now these people, the peoples of the First Nation, are literally like, what the fuck? Like, this is
Yeah.
our land, always has been. You said it, signed it into contract. So now you get this legal battle between the Canadian government and First Nations people. When First Nations people say, this is our fucking land. You signed it. You told us. Whereas in
Yeah.
America, They don't have that foot to stand on because they stole it fairly. You know what I mean? Like
Stalin.
they stole it
But they
fairly.
gave 'em
So
casinos
it's
and reservations.
yeah. Well, and that's where you are in Canada. Instead of giving them all the good land, we end up giving them shitty land that's barely fertile. It's a lot of it's up north and yada 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 yada.
That
So,
we do the
anyways,
same shit here, but again, we say you can casino there and you could get money back from all the old white ladies,
yeah,
and then that's
yeah,
your
we got
reparations, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like,
yeah,
and you guys can have
and
people smoke cigarettes there so you can kill them slowly. You guys
and
can
at least
smoke
there's
here.
no contract that says that they have to do something else. You know,
Yeah.
they're just doing it. They're just doing it. So, needless to say, along the way, in many moons ago, the Canadian government set up what's known as residential schools. Residential schools was an attempt by the Canadian government to assimilate Aboriginal children and remove them from their culture, their language, their families, so on and so forth. And they shipped hundreds of thousands of kids out of their families and sent them to these Catholic schools where they were raped, they were abused, they were like it's
Murdered
gross.
and
It's
fucking put their
yes,
bodies in fucking
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's pretty well documented. It's gross. And so, needless to say, it's somehow necessary for
For the
this
Pope.
85-year-old white guy to come to Canada and say, "We are sorry." So,
Yeah. And so
it's
that's the part that I was trying to
so
get at
here
initially. It's
here
like, where the how does this make any
right.
sense?
But here's what you and I have to understand. You and I can't understand this.
No,
Okay,
I don't understand much.
our people weren't never made to feel like this before. Our mom and dads didn't
I've
have to
got
go to a
Native American in my
school.
blood, son.
They didn't have to. You know what I mean? So it's like
No, I don't know shit about
we don't know. We don't know. Maybe an apology feels better. It's a start towards reconciliation. You know
Let's
what I
ask
mean?
Kush. I believe Kush has some affiliation.
He
Let's
does.
ask him.
Yeah, he
Let's say,
does.
"Hey,
He's
Kush,
probably
do you
sleeping because
feel
he was
better?
up with me last night.
Do you feel better now? Do you wake up, you're like, "My people are free. We could rest
No,
easy.
no, absolutely not.
We could
I'm
move
gonna speak
on. We
for
were
him.
all in purgatory until the fucking random pope came who's also connected to fucking random weird hidden shit, and,
Yeah,
he apologized, so we're good."
yeah. Yeah. It's almost like
It's like a smack in the face.
that abusive stepmother that's like high on crack, smoking cigarettes all the time, and it's like 15 years later, you haven't seen her ever. 15
Yeah.
years later, she's still strung out on crack, smoking fucking cigarettes, left titty hanging out. You know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Not
I
even. It'd
didn't
be
think
like
it
if
was
a
gonna be
a
that
random
bad.
neighbor apologized for her. She was still a
Sure.
piece of
Yeah, you're
shit,
right. Yeah, you're
but the
right. Yeah,
neighbor
you're right.
came over who you don't even know and was like,
Yeah,
"Listen,
sorry
I wanna
about Tanya.
apologize."
Yeah, 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 you're
Like,
right.
"Well, shit, I feel so much better now that my"
Yeah,
now
thank you
that
for that.
you who are connected to all
Because
this
you clearly
directly.
knew that they didn't want to do that to me. You know? Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Now maybe maybe it's a step in the right direction for those that have been damaged or broken. Uh, but it is kind of the same, not the same, but it's like this is the Catholic Church, right? So it is kind of a recognition. And in fairness, residential schools like went up right into like 1990, like early 90s. So it's like this shit is
Yeah.
ripe in a
Well, there
lot of
clearly people
minds.
showed up. They showed, like, the people who are, I guess,
Yeah,
representing.
there was quite a well, let's actually read an article on this just
We
real
should
quick so we
read.
can give some facts.
Yeah.
The Associated Press is reporting that thousands of Indigenous people converged Monday on the small Alberta prairie community of Maskawekis,
Definitely stolen land. Jesus
to
Christ.
hear, yeah, of course, to hear a long-awaited apology from Pope Francis for generations of abuse and cultural suppression at Catholic residential schools across Canada. He was scheduled to arrive mid-morning at the site of former Ermineskin Indian Residential School, now largely torn down. He, excuse me, planned to pause at the sites of the former school of nearby cemetery before speaking in a large open area to school survivors, their relatives, and other supporters. Let's see if we can get like a statement or something. The Canadian government has admitted that physical and sexual abuse were rampant in the government-funded Christian schools that operated from the 19th century to the 1970s. Some 150,000 Indigenous children were taken from their families and forced to attend in an effort to isolate them from the influence of their homes, native language, cultures, and assimilate them into Christian society. Now, I see you highlighted 19th
Right.
century to the 1970s, but I'm pretty sure this is kind of like the the slavery thing, where it's like the bulk of them were shut down in the 70s, but
But there
there
was
were
still, yeah.
still, yeah, still some rampant, or not some reminiscent through the,
Well, what was it, like 2, 3 years ago, they found a bunch of remains
yeah,
of, indigenous people that were just being hidden.
children,
Children just
children,
being hidden under
yeah.
schools and places, like, what the fuck, man?
Now,
This is
there's a
where, like,
lot there there's some controversy on that as well. I don't know what the facts are. We kind of we kind of dove into
Dovited.
it a little, dovidide
Say it right.
into, yeah, you're right.
Jesus,
I
Dovited.
apologize. Um, we kind of checked it out when it happened, but excuse me, I got hair in my mouth. I have very furry dogs. Chow chows.
Makes sense.
Um, they it's kind of unknown if these were I don't know how to say this to be accurate, but they don't know if they were just unmarked mass graves that were just done
Um,
by the culture kind of thing, in terms of like, you know, there was not a lot of money, not a lot of funding, and so sometimes I don't know. I don't fucking know, man.
from what
It's
I
so hard
when it
to,
first all came out, it just sounds like they were just hidden, like, they didn't
yeah.
wanna pay for it,
Yep.
and
Yep.
they were less these lives were less value to them, so they weren't gonna have a normal fucking funeral and be buried and have a tombstone and marked grave.
Yes. Yes. And
So it seems like
and
totally
that's
a
that
buzzkill. I gotta smoke more weed.
total buzzkill. But this is the realities, of a lot of people. People don't fully understand the relationship between the Canadian government and Aboriginal people. Where I'm from in Manitoba, there is a lot of racism between Canadians and Aboriginal people. And I'm not saying like it's like in your face blatant, but
But it's like
oof,
segregation
all
a little bit
behind
and
scene, like I like the comments, and I'm not going to say my friends, but like I'm exposed
acquaintances.
to it a lot. You know what I mean? In terms of just the comments, the things that people say, and the way they talk about other people's, and it is very, very prevalent in my society. Now, in my area, excuse me, I got some in my throat. Not getting choked up. I know that if you go outside my province, it's not necessarily that way. It's just kind of just the way that things have kind of fallen over time.
It's kinda like
But
my county here, like, anybody who's not, fitting the demographic, we'll say, it really doesn't even matter your skin color, it's just, like, your style, your life, like, finances, things like that.
right,
It's
right,
a they really separate each other, and then right outside of here, it's not the case, melting pots everywhere, everybody's cool with each other. The people who suck, suck not because of any other reason, they just suck as people.
yeah,
Here,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
you suck because you're poor, because you're black, because you're Mexican, whatever. If you don't really
right.
have some money, it's weird, like, when I first moved here when I was a teenager, it was total whitewash, totally different culture, and then what's acceptable here in terms of jokes or music or things, like, I'm like, "That's fucking racist," and they're like, "No, no, no, I got a
Yeah,
black friend." I'm like,
I got it, man.
"Whoa." So then it's like,
Yeah.
I feel like in Canada, you're gonna be dealing with more, natives there, so to speak, in terms
Mhm.
of, that's where you're gonna see that cultural divide, and because there's a lot of ignorance in terms of perpetuated fucking stupidity
Ignorance,
between
bro.
people.
It's
Well, it's
ignorance.
generational usually. It's where,
Yep.
like,
Uh-huh. Mhm.
people don't know why they feel this way, but it's acceptable, and sometimes they
Yep.
don't really hate the people per se, but they say hateful shit. They do hateful shit. So it's like, until people start becoming more educated, the only way to fix it isn't the Pope apologizing. It's fucking
No,
people
it's
taking care of other
education.
humans.
You're 100% right, man. The only reason I understand the story of today is because I was fortunate enough to go to a university where my professor, shout out to Kelly, she was amazing. She was so smart, man, and she was a conservative, excuse me, but never ever led me to believe that she was a conservative. She actually worked for the conservative government, and the reason I say that is because she was my political science professor. And she told me that she remembers times where it's like she worked for the Conservative Party, and she had to go to an Aboriginal, like a Northern Reserve, and she's like, you know what, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna try to figure out why they have it so bad, yada yada yada. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna be the woman to save the day. And she, with her briefcase in hand and her suit pants and her high heels on, she gets off the plane into 4 inches of mud, into a pallet walkway, to a rundown shanty of a shack, to talk to the chief and the people. And she said right away she realized she had no fucking idea. She had no clue. She could not understand as a white woman the things that these people have gone through. And she kind of like, tried to pass that forward to her class in terms of, bringing the idea forward that it's like they didn't choose this path. There's a reason that this divide exists. And a lot of people just don't understand. And that whole analogy, that whole idea that I gave you at the beginning of we didn't steal this land. Well, we stole it. We signed contracts and we just nulled the contract. That is not what no other country on the face of the planet writes contracts with the enemies until they've already defeated them. Okay?
Yeah.
Canada did not do that. That is why this exists. And you have to understand that. And you can't just be like, "Oh, they're just lazy and they don't work,"
Yeah.
and fuck. It's
I
just
hear
not
that shit
true,
from
man.
the
It's
fucking
not
redneck
true.
people I know here. It's like, you're so misinformed, man. You just don't
So
fucking know.
misinformed. It's unfortunate, man. It's unfortunate. It's almost like the disease of ignorance is as bad as the disease of history
Well, and like that's I
itself.
think is it's perpetuated ignorance, man. It's usually a generational thing. Like I was saying, like usually there's somebody who breaks the chain in a family. You know what I'm saying? Somebody gets out of
100%.
it.
You're
But
absolutely right.
it's not always like common. It's like to a situation where if your family has acted a certain way, you may have that kind of in you, like not genetically, but it's programming. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't necessarily know any other way until you get around more people and you become more cultured and more experienced, and you're like, damn, this is fucked up. The internet should help a lot of people because they can just see
Yeah.
the shit. But the
Yep.
problem is now it's muddied, and a lot of people can't tell fake from real, and they're just
Yeah.
naive, man. Like so, it's tough to try to educate people who don't want to be educated, and it's also you just think people want to treat other humans good, man.
Yeah,
Something
you would
about that
think
with
so.
people, it's like,
You'd think so.
there's other
It's
shit
in
out
our
there in
best
space, right?
interest, you know?
Let's love humans, man, because one day
You're the
we're
one
gonna have
that's
another thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I was just gonna say you're the one that mentioned this. It's like we need a catastrophe, bro. We need, and
Bring
you
us
don't. And
together.
nobody wants to wish that upon anyone. But bro, we needed a group a group of aliens to come and start wreaking havoc on Earth, so that humans can start to realize, oh shit, we got to work together.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, 7 billion of us is pretty powerful. But it's like we won't like
Yeah.
we would die, go out swinging on our own.
That's what I'm saying, man, is it boils down to people being stuck in a bubble and not looking at what's going on. Right now in America, it's a lot of gun violence, internally, so we're
Yep.
looking at each other as the enemy.
Yep.
As where before, like 9/11, it was like, "Everybody who's dark, you son of a bitch," and fucking,
Right. With
like,
some on their head.
yeah, Middle
Yeah.
East dark, let me
Yep.
clarify, and it
Yep.
really organized people together
Yep.
here who are American, so to speak,
Right.
and it's like, is
It
that what it
united
takes? Like,
America. Yeah.
we
But
have to
now
be
we need
fucking hurt?
something that's not Taliban or Al Qaeda. You know what I mean? Now we need something it sucks. You
It
need a
sucks.
catastrophe to bring everybody together. It's so true, man. It's so true. And it's such an unfortunate thing. Because great or like moments of greatness won't do it, because there's
No,
people
I
out
know.
there that'll shit on the greatness, be like boo, but
Yeah,
that is
they're
what it
getting
is, man.
paid by fucking some other person, or they were like, there's always some sort of
That's
thing,
it.
man.
That's it. If Yeah, that is what it is. But hey, welcome to the morning show, guys. That's a rant and a half, if I may say so myself. If you guys missed anything on the morning show, you can sign up for Patreon as well. Patreon.com/topbuds. Come on over, join the show. See a lot of the BTS, and also you go over to YouTube. You can see all of the main highlights of the show, Top Buds with Rob and Pigeons. You just search that whole thing. I know it's big, but you got to check it out.